What's up, YouTube? I'm Mike, and today I'm back with some more steroid content. Hopefully you can't hear that noise in the background. My wife's in the shower. Sometimes it kind of comes through on the camera. So today what I'm talking about is an update to the cycle that I have been running. So let me clarify. I believe we're now technically at week 13, but for the purposes of this video, we're kind of at week 1 because I made some changes. So I was running 500 milligrams of Test E, 300 milligrams of Trenbolone E, 300 milligrams of Masteron E for, I think is that it? Test, Tren, Mast. Yeah, that's what I was running for quite a while. I had thrown in some Anadrol into the mix, but that was more or less the cycle for the majority of the 12 weeks. I had kicked the Tren up to 350 for a few weeks, so technically the highest it got was 500 milligrams Test E, 350 milligrams of Trenbolone E, and 300 milligrams of Masteron E. As I mentioned in my previous video, I think, or maybe it was in my live stream, at the 13-week mark, after having been on Tren for so long, I was just really kind of beat up, man. Like, I'd been having some psychological issues. I was having some depression issues. I had really hoped that the proper dose of cabergoline would allow me to run the Tren for 16, 20 weeks, maybe longer at a higher dose at 300 plus milligrams. And maybe it's just me, maybe it's my personality, maybe it was just a combination of, I don't know. Honestly, I just couldn't do it, guys. And I needed a fucking break. I've been on Tren. I've been on at least 100 milligrams of Tren for like eight months straight. And so I've been wanting to try the combination of Deca and Tren, primarily just because everybody tells you not to do it. And so this is where I'm at today. So at the end of the 12-week mark, I dropped my Tren dose down to 100 milligrams a week, and I added in 200 milligrams a week of Deca. So the injectables are 500 milligrams of Test E per week. Actually, I'm technically now I'm on 500 milligrams of Test C per week, 300 milligrams of Mast E per week, 200 milligrams of Deca, 100 milligrams of Trenbolone E. At about the same time, I want to say give or take like a day or two after I dropped my Tren dose and added in the Deca. I really was just, like I said, I was so overcome with just the dark cloud that had been kind of following me around for a while. I feel like I had proved everything that I wanted to prove about the Tren. I had proved to myself that I could run Tren at high doses without destroying my marriage, without breaking shit all over the house, without getting into fucking road rage incidents. Basically I was trying to prove to myself and to my wife that I could run higher doses of Tren and not have all of the negative psychological impacts that usually come with running that cycle. Because basically every single time I have gone to the 200 plus mark, it has resulted in really bad effects on my marriage. And so in this particular case, she was also coming up on Primo, which usually is just a recipe for disaster. And I'm very happy to report that we only had one little tiny blip of a fight during this entire thing. I mean, really minor in the grand scheme of things. And so I was able to get what I needed out of the cycle, which was to prove to myself that I could, in fact, control the Tren psychologically. I could protect the cycle, like I'm always saying, and that I could, have a little fun with the Tren come up. Because that's ultimately what it is for me, is that those early weeks when you start hitting a higher dose of Tren, and you get the rage and the libido and the aggression and the savage workouts, and you just feel godly on that Tren come up. And I had told myself originally out the gate that I was only going to stay on the higher dose of Tren while I was experiencing those come up effects. I say it every time, and then I don't do it because I start growing, or I start really liking my appearance in the gym. But in all honesty and full transparency, the Tren at higher doses is really only fun in the beginning for me. Like, maybe that's the drug addict in me. Maybe that's the person that craves the come up. That's true of basically every street drug I ever did. You know, like I remember when I used to roll X. You know, I love that come up period on X till you get to that peak. And then once the drug starts peaking and then, you know, going down in your system, you immediately, it's just not the same. You either want more or, you know, the honeymoon phase is sort of worn off. And that's why I use, you know, for example, Anavar in short doses, because I only want that initial energy surge and intensity that I get in that first couple of weeks being on Anavar. Same thing can be true of Anadrol. And so what I had originally told my wife was that I was only going to run Tren for maybe 6-8 weeks and then just enjoy like at the higher dose and just enjoy that fucking super trend outrage and aggression. Because really beyond that point, once you start feeling all of the come up, again, it really can just be like street drugs where you're basically just on the trend for the sake of being on the trend, for trying to continue to grow, which I really wasn't. Because honestly, that dose of Tren is really not necessary for growth. That high of a dose of Tren negatively affects my appetite, causes a lot of other issues. And so at some point, it's almost like for me, you know, once I added in the Anadrol and I pushed everything up over 1,500 milligrams a week, it was just like the cycle was weighting me down so much that I wasn't even really feeling the highs of it. Like I wasn't even really feeling the enjoyable parts of it. And for a bodybuilder who's cycling because they're in a serious bulk phase, because they're prepping for a show or they're competitive or whatever, and this is their meal ticket. Like, you know, they have an off season that they have to grow in so that they can continue their career. It might be worth all of the side effects that come from running really high doses of gear, and the mood and the libido issues and the relationship problems. Like, if this is what you do for a living and growth, you know, growing another 10 or 15 pounds of muscle is the difference between you winning a show or winning your pro card and not, then yeah, obviously that makes fucking sense. You just got to do what you do. I mean, there's lots of parts of anybody's career that they don't love that can negatively affect their family life, you know, like if I go back to work selling equipment or selling something, like those first 6 months in the new territory are grueling. You know, they're long days and they're early mornings and you're meeting a lot of people and you're on the road a lot. And then once you kind of get stable in the territory, things slow down a little bit and it becomes more manageable. But for me, as a lifestyle bodybuilder, somebody who's not competing, you know, if I never gain another pound of muscle in my frame, it really doesn't matter. I already have achieved all the physique goals I really want. You know, I reasonably want. Like, would I take, you know, 225, 250? Of course I would. You know, shit. I don't have a limit, man. It's not. I'm not like one of these guys who's like, oh, I wouldn't want to be that big. Like, if I could fucking look like Big Ramy tomorrow, fucking I would do it. But I can't, or at least I haven't. And I think at this stage of the game, being 43, it's probably not gonna happen for me. So I'm very happy with where I'm sitting right now. I'm currently holding weight at 200, like just under 206 pounds at night. So I ended up not, in fact, losing all of the gains that I thought I lost. At 206 right now, I have 6 perfectly visible abs. I don't think I'm quite as lean as I was at 200. I'd have to get a scan or, you know, get the calipers out to really take a look at that. But that's where my body weight is, and that's where the compounds are. As for how I'm feeling, holy fuck, man. You know, one of the things that people often will use as an excuse to run Tren Ace, especially in the early going of their steroid using career, is they'll say, well, you know, I've heard that it's a good idea to run Tren Ace because you don't know how you're going to react to it, and if you have a bad reaction, then it gets out of your system quickly. And while, yeah, technically it's true, like the Tren Ace is going to get out of your system quicker than the Tren E. My counterpoint to that is I think that you are more likely to have negative side effects from Tren Ace. This is my opinion. I've never run it, so I'm basing this on things that I've read. Because of the extreme come-ups and the how intense the drug, the fact that there's really no buildup. It's almost like insta-active the first shot you take. So you go from basically no tren to holy fuck, I'm on tren. I think that you're more likely to get negative effects from Tren Ace and pull the plug on it that you might not ever receive from Tren E. So like, for example, I have never one time had tren cough. And I always assumed that I was lucky. First of all, that I thought maybe tren cough was caused by people getting tren into hitting a vein or something, and I've done that with tests, and it does make you cough a little bit. You can, if you get like a test shot or any shot into your bloodstream, you can kind of taste it when you start breathing, and it moves through your bloodstream, it gets into your lungs, and then you can almost taste the ester, or the oil in your lungs, and it causes you to cough. But it's a mild cough, it's like kind of cough here, cough there. It's not like what's been reported of tren cough. And so I always kind of thought that tren cough was just caused by somebody hitting a vein with any tren shot, and that I had just been lucky and not had it happen. And then recently, within the last month or so, I did hit a vein with a tren shot and got a little bit in my lungs, and it caused a cough that was absolutely no different than any other time that I've gotten a little bit of an oil in my bloodstream. So tren cough, at least anecdotally, seems to be a Tren Ace issue. I have never had it on E. I don't know anyone who has. So I don't really subscribe to the idea that it makes sense to run Tren Ace instead of Tren E because of the side effects. I think that it's possible that you're going to just create side effects you otherwise wouldn't have from Tren E. As for the tren leaving the system, which is what I'm really trying to get to here, I was normally pinning, like 190 milligrams twice a week, or 150 milligrams. When I was at 300 milligrams, I would pin 150 milligrams twice a week. So for 1 week now, which is 2 pins, so for 2 pins, rather than pinning, 190, I have been pinning 50. So I have dropped this week from about 350 milligrams of tren down to 100 milligrams of tren, and already the psychological difference is remarkable. Like I feel so much better mentally. All of the tren side effects are still there. It's just like everything got the volume turned down. And I like to use this analogy a lot about tren in general. If you've ever had like a performance car, or a car where you could put it in manual, or you could put it in a mode where you could control the RPMs. If you let your car rev at like 3,000 RPMs, it just jerks you all over the place, because you're in the power band constantly. So the tiniest press on the throttle and you have insta fucking power. So like in my BMW M340i, if I put it in Sport Plus mode, it would rev at like 3,000 RPMs, and you touch that fucking pedal and it's fucking gone. And so like putting it in Sport Plus mode, like going in through parking lots and shit, it could be kind of jerky because it's revving high and it wants to fucking take off, and it's kind of hard to control. And when you're driving a car that you have pinned in the power band constantly, it can make you stressed out, because you have to be very aware of what you're doing with the throttle. You can't just like veg out, listen to the radio, fuck around with your phone when your fucking car's just revved up right in the middle of the power band, because if you're not paying attention, you lean on the throttle, it's gonna fucking take off on you. And that's, to me, is sort of like what tren in high doses is. It's like 24 hours, 365, however long you're on it. It's just your brain is just in the fucking red zone. It's already in the fucking power band. And so somebody looks at you the wrong way, says the wrong thing, any little thing, and you're already popped off. And so when you drop from, say, in my case, 350 milligrams of tren down to 100 milligrams of tren, it's like taking it out of Sport Plus and putting it in Sport. It's like, yeah, it's revving at like 2,500 RPMs or something, 2,000. If I push on the pedal, it'll downshift quickly. We can get to 3,000, 4,000 RPMs in a couple of seconds. But there's a distinct difference from rolling down the road at 2,000 or 2,500 RPMs, knowing that you have power that you can call up in a second, versus having to be constantly aware of how much pressure you have on the pedal, because the tiniest, you hit a bump in the road and you press the pedal, boom, it takes off on you. And so that's the psychological difference to me with Trenbolone. It's like being able to, running 100 milligrams of Tren is like a performance car that you're not fucking redlining all the time, that you don't have in the power band. The power is there. You can downshift at any moment. You can tap into that Tren and you can be as aggressive or horny or whatever you need, whatever you get from the higher doses of Tren. It's just like a little bit delayed, but it's there all the time. And so you can kind of relax and rest, and you can be fucking sort of normal. And when things do pop off, because there's a little bit more, there's less throttle response, it's like, yeah, you can drop shift and get into a higher gear and flash on somebody, but then, you don't stay in that high gear for very long. You drop back down and you're like, okay, that's over with. It's just kind of like, whoom, and then done. And whereas when you, like in my BMW, in Sport Plus, if you fucking push the throttle, that fucking car would take off and then it would stay up at 5,000 and it would slowly come back to 3,000 because it's still waiting for you to, it wants you to keep the fight going basically. That car is begging you to fucking race it. And that is what Tren at 300 milligrams is. It is just begging you all day, every day to fucking race it, to push it to its fucking limits. Whereas again, Tren at 100 milligrams, it's got all the power you need. It's just way fucking easier to control. And that creates a much better mental state where your sympathetic drive is not maxed out at all fucking times. You can have experiences, you can have the power on demand, but you can still chill, spend time with your girl, spend time with your wife. Guy cuts you off in traffic, maybe you flip him off and you say a couple choice words and then you drop, you shift back down or shift back up into higher gear and you go back to cruising and it's fine. And so right now, psychologically, I'm feeling the best that I've felt, honestly, since I upped the dose. I mean, almost immediately within the first week of going from 100 to 300, all the Tren effects came on, and they've been here for fucking 12 to 13 weeks now. And so it has been a very, very welcome return to some semblance of normalcy. Obviously, the Deca has only been in the system for 2 shots. So I'm going to the gym now. I actually missed several days in the gym due to some family things that we've had going on. I haven't been to the gym in 3 days. So I'm about to go to the gym with my wife, and I'm not expecting any Deca feelings yet. I'm not expecting the joints to be lubricated or anything. That's why I'm looking a little flat. I'm kind of 3 days out. I'm don't really have my pump that I would normally have. So I'm looking forward to getting a workout in because psychologically I desperately need that. And then I'm really excited to start seeing how the Deca and the Tren work together in my system. I started to say this earlier, and I think I skipped it because I started yammering about how I was feeling. Full disclosure, about 2 days into when I dropped my Tren dose down, I was not feeling the relief that I wanted immediately. And I had like 15 or 20 Proviron tabs, 50 milligram Proviron tabs sitting around that I needed to get rid of anyway. And I decided, you know what? I had really good luck with Proviron before. My libido was not quite where I wanted it, and Proviron has helped with that in the past. And so for the past like 5 days now, 4 or 5 days, I've also been running 50 milligrams of Proviron in 2 25 milligram doses. So that is also in the mix, and I am definitely feeling the effects of the Proviron. I happen to love Proviron. I don't know that I'm going to run it long term because its long-term effects don't seem to last. It's like anything else. Few weeks of Anavar is good. Few weeks of Anadrol is good. Right now I'm getting all of the crazy libido that I want. When that tapers off, I'll probably drop it for a few weeks and then think about adding it back in just to kind of cycle it through my body. Proviron really is not good for much of anything other than crushing your SHBG. And crushing your SHBG into the toilet is not exactly ideal either, which is why I think that I have crazy libido in the first few weeks and it starts to flag. Is because I think it takes a little while for it to actually crush my SHBG all the way down too low. Then if you cycle off, you let it come back up a little bit, and then you can go back on and try to keep that sex game rolling. So that's what I'm intending to do. We'll see how it goes. So I've been running the Proviron at 50 milligrams a day in 2 25 milligram doses. Also because I think I mentioned this in the previous video, I had started losing weight due to the burning stomach that the Tren causes. I couldn't cope with it. I was staying stable at 207 at night, and when I stopped the 677, I dropped like 10 pounds almost. I went from, that's not true. I went from 207 at night to 198 in the morning. So that's more like 202 at night. So I dropped about 5 pounds. The second I don't have the MK in my system in the presence of Tren, my appetite goes absolutely into the shitter. I just will not eat at all. The only thing that was keeping me alive was chocolate milk, honestly. It's the only thing I could tolerate on my stomach. I was drinking a lot of chocolate milk, but I was not meeting my macros or my calories, and so I started losing weight. So I put the MK back in at a very small dose. So like right now what I'm using is 5 milligrams twice a day. That's helping me. I'm not having lethargy with that, so I may or may not increase it. Right now I'm experiencing no lethargy from a total of 10 milligrams of MK per day. My appetite is better, although not awesome. And so I may increase that. I may double that to 20. We'll just have to see. So I'm getting no lethargy from that. Which is the reason that I stopped it before, and it definitely is helping with my appetite, because like I said, right now currently I'm holding about 205.5 pounds at night, and that's actually climbing. So I'm hoping to get back to that 207 mark. I'm hoping that's where I kind of land and kind of recomp from there, and I really want to see 207 be a very, very lean 207. That's sort of my goal right now. If I had a goal at all, it's not to try to grow any more muscle than that. It's to try to be 207, at 207 at 10%, 207 at 9%. That would be really the target for the remainder of this cycle. So I'm gonna run these doses as long as I continue to feel good. I still feel that my estrogen is a bit high. In fact, I started getting when I started having the burning stomach, I wasn't convinced that it was purely the Tren and the lack of the MK. And so I added 0.5 milligram of Arimidex to my dose and started feeling better. So for ancillaries, currently I'm taking 3.5 milligrams of Arimidex at 500 milligrams of Test E. And then you've got to understand, I added the Deca in, which can aromatize, probably is. So I'm thinking about possibly adding another 0.5 milligram of Arimidex. I'm trying to take it very, very slow because I don't want to crash it. But I don't know if you can see in this video, my nipples are more than a little suspect. I think you can see that. So this is what my nipples are looking like on all the doses that I just reported. And that's 3.5 milligrams of Arimidex and 0.75 milligrams of cabergoline per week. So I'm kind of in a no man's land where I've got a few decisions I can make. What I should do is go get blood work. That's what I should do. I should go get my estrogen checked. So my options are adding another 0.5 milligram of Arimidex, taking it to 4 milligrams of Arimidex total per week, and seeing where that gets me. That's option number one. Option number 2 is increase my Masteron from 300 milligrams per week to 400 milligrams a week, which I really kind of want to do anyway because I hate having to pin 0.75. It's annoying. I would rather just pin, my Masteron's 200 milligrams per milliliter, so I would rather just pin a cc twice a week and keep it nice and easy. And so I really just want to go to 400 milligrams of Masteron. That's option number 2. Option number 3 is to add in a little bit more Caber and see if the gyno that I'm getting is caused by prolactin and not by estrogen. Or I could do a combination of all of those things. Again, the 200 milligrams of Deca does have some binding affinity for the progesterone receptor, and it does have some affinity to increase aromatase, to aromatize into estrogen. So it's possible that I'm going to need a little extra Arimidex and or Masteron and a little extra cabergoline to work out, to get the nipples dialed in perfectly. Right now, sexually, I'm performing very well, which tells me that generally speaking, my estrogen is in line. It doesn't mean that it's not a little high, but it's definitely not low. Morning wood is very strong, and my libido is very strong. So I'm pretty close to the sweet spot on Masteron, on estrogen, which is why I don't want to tinker with it too much. So that's basically where we stand at this point. My psychological state is massively improved from the prior weeks. My energy levels have improved. My zest for life, basically every measurable, conceivable thing that you could look at. Relationship quality, patience, intimacy with my wife, connection with my kids. I just feel a million times better across the board, and I don't know if that's I'm sure it's some combination of the Proviron and the reduction of Tren, but honestly, I feel that primarily speaking, the vast majority of the positive changes are coming from the reduction of the Trenbolone to 100 milligrams a week, which is where I intend to stay for probably the duration of this cycle, however long it takes. So there you have it. As always, if you have questions about this cycle or any other cycles, please leave them in the comment section below. Check out my channel page for all of the links to all of my various different things that we have going on. Lots of people are jumping on the OF. We really appreciate that. We're going to be doing some new, fresh OF content coming up very soon. In fact, my kids are all gone, so we might be shooting some new content tonight. Possibly pictures and videos, but hopefully at least some photo shoots at a bare minimum. We've got a Discord channel that's growing by the day. The link to the Discord channel is also in the comments, so check all that out. Like, subscribe, share. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, we'll see you on the next one.